my favourite fight of the year, Eubank Jr versus Benn, but we've had the undercard announced. Jack Catterall against Eko Esserman.
Good fight.
Adam Azim versus Zar Abdullaev. And Richard Riakporhe versus Tommy Walsh are the headline, undercard as far as I'm concerned, with all due respect to the other fighters. Initial reaction to those? Paul?
It's not a barnstorm of what we've seen in the past from some of these Riyadh season cards, obviously. But obviously, it might be a bit of a sign of the times in the way a lot of the cards going. It's a really good main event. It doesn't really need a top undercard to sell it. Yeah. And I don't blame them for doing so, because if you put on top-class fights on the undercard, top-class fights cost a lot of money, obviously. I'd be excited to see Jack Catterall, how he is. I think he's at a very, very important stage of his career at the moment.
Changing his trainer from Jamie Moore.
Trainers from Jamie Moore over to Ennis over in the States. Adam Azim, obviously, I think he's a great talent. It's good to see him on a card with the likes of these fighters. Then further down, obviously, then the fights get a little bit. We saw Ishmael Davis out last time in a good fight against Kevin Ajako. Him against Sam Gilly, I think, is a decent fight. I think it's a good matchup. I think that.
But these are big fights, Johnny, aren't they, for Jack Catterall? We've seen Jack Catterall go up to 147, fight Harlem Eubank. It was unsatisfactory ending to the fight because there was a cut involved, so we didn't really get to see from Jack Catterall. We've seen him, operate at a very high level at 140 with Josh Taylor, come up short against Arnold Barbosa, which I thought was unfair because it was one fight too many to get a world title shot. Had to fight Regis Progress, had to fight Jorge Linares, and then that ended up running into Arnold Barbosa on that particular evening. I mean, you've got Jack coming out for a fight against Eko Esserman, who's got that great win against Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor retired straight afterwards there, and afterwards it might give you some indication of where Josh was before that fight. You've also got Adam Azim coming back after what seems to be a quite protracted layoff, and that might be some of the contractual stuff with Boxer, I don't know. And then we've got Richard Riakporhe, who I like a lot, but cannot get past the disappointment of not turning up in the fight against Chris Billam-Smith. I'm not suggesting that Chris Billam-Smith didn't make it that way, but Riakporhe went into that fight. He wanted to fight at Selhurst Park. It's where he wanted to fight in the football club that he supports, and didn't really turn up. These are three fighters with three different challenges.
They're storytellers, and I think for Richard Riakporhe, it's just when he got the opportunity and he didn't take it. It's like, now what are you doing? Where are you going? It's like you're just happy to stand and wait and say, this is what I'm going to do next. I just want another warm up. And I think Richard is one of those fighters that's underachieved in his career. I think this guy will look at himself and think, what did I do? Because he's got all the attributes going. That's what I see here in the gym. Jack Catterall, a guy that has never really fully got his props. I think Jack Catterall's a good fighter.
Well, he got taken out from underneath him, didn't he, against Josh Taylor, when he should have been undisputed.
That's what makes, in our game, I hate that sort of stuff, because I thought, you've changed the course of this young man's life.
Massively.
So for Jack Catterall against Esserman, it's a good fight, but I think Jack will probably be a bit too smart, be a bit too wise, and as long as he doesn't, if you're going to make a commitment in regards to changing your training camp, in such a big commitment, he shows his appetite that he's still got for our game.
Do you think you can win a world title at 147? You look at the various. I mean, you've got Lewis Crocker in there now, haven't you? At 147, you've got Barrios, who was, unimpressive, albeit that Manny Pacquiao rolled back the years, but notwithstanding that, do you think there's a real possibility?
I do think there's a possibility, but I think we're seeing the best version of him gone.
Right.
But I do still think there's a possibility.
What about Adam Azim? I I like Adam, and obviously we've seen a couple of fights in recent years where I think he fought the was it Iranian or Latvian Vanian at Wembley, I think, where we saw some of the learning curve that he's got to go through. Obviously, there was a lot of comparisons between him and Dalton Smith. Yeah. I think that I don't want to see Dalton Smith fighting Adam Azim until there's a world title on offer or a world opportunity for both of them. And Dalton, I think, is going to get his world title shot sooner rather than later, as we know. I mean, what do you think is the direction of travel for Adam? Is he the same prospect that we talked about previously that's going to be at that top table?
Without doubt. I think Adam's a little bad man. He loves to fight. And the kid, that's all he wants to do is fight. And I know he went away, he got married and everything. I actually worried because I thought, oh my goodness, somebody's going to take him off the focus of wanting to be that fighter. But all he does is train and fight. The kid is a talent. Right. He's an unbelievable talent.
What's your opinion on the Dalton Smith fight, pull out, vacating the title?
Dalton's going to have to go across the past. Yeah.
As I always said, I agree.
He don't care about it, does he?
At the time, Dalton was a better fighter. Yeah. So there's no problem in saying that. That fight is 2 years down the line, I think. And I agree with you. I'd like to see it when it's got a lot of meaning on that fight. But that fight too early for a British title or a European title, it's not the fight that... I think it wouldn't have been the fight that it will be when they're both at the peak.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I'm honest with you, I think Dalton is a better fighter currently. But I think the longer Dalton leaves it for this fight to happen, it gives a better chance for Adam to be a fully rounded fighter. So he's got to be smart. I'd have snatched that straight off and put him in his place. Because each fight you leave this...
Oh, I think Dalton would have taken it, wouldn't he? I think the argument was that Adam Azim and Ben Shalom were playing hide and seek with themselves and avoiding it.
I just didn't like the excuses at the time, like oh, it's this type of fight. Just tell the truth. Sometimes when fighters are coming through, someone's a couple of years ahead, and it's no problem.
That's easier said than done.
It is.
But you can respect that. You can respect that. So my boy's not ready yet.
Massively. I've respected that a lot more than some of the stuff I hear.
But that was Ben Shalom's job then, wasn't it? It wasn't Adam Azim's job, was it? It's not Adam Azim's job to say, well, I'm not ready in my career yet. It's someone else's job to say it for him. He's trained
and that's why. But if you want to play playing the big boys league, then you want to make out as though you've got somebody that's worth the weight in gold.
Last week, Johnny, we had Brian McIntyre in the studio and talking about training Eubank Jr. Have a listen, because a lot of it's very interesting.
Once he gets in the gym, man, he works like he's a world champion. Like he got the title, and somebody's trying to take it from him. So he works hard, and he's quiet about it.
Why has he brought you back? Why are you back with him?
That's a good question. And the only thing I could think of is because probably I'm the best.
Sure.
And we had a great camp, and we had a great fight the last fight that we was together. And
Liam.
Yeah, Liam against Liam. And everything went smooth. During camp, outside the gym, inside the gym, everything went smooth.
What did you think of the first fights?
Well, I will tell you this, man. We tried to make it happen the first fight, but the timing was wrong.
Right. So he wanted you back for that anyway?
He wanted me back for the next couple fights, but the timing was wrong because I was working with Keyshawn Davis. He was getting ready for a world title fight. Other fighters that was in the gym, I had obligations to. So, I hate that I missed out on that. Part of history.
Does that mean you're now with him for long term?
I'm sure I am.
Yeah.
I'm sure I am. We've got a really, really great relationship. I told him the other day, maybe it was yesterday or the day before, I said, man, once you get past this fight and you dominate this fight, they can't deny you fighting for a world title. At 160, I believe he can be a world champion.
At 160?
At 160, I believe he can be a world champion.
What am I, a tramp? I wear the same jacket 2 weeks in a row. It's a blue roll neck, not a black one. This one's black. I think one of the interesting things that came out, or two of the interesting things that came out from Bo McIntyre was A, that he's going to work with him long term, Eubank Jr., and B, he thinks he's going to be a world champion. I've got my doubts about that.
I think Chris has got a world champion's heart and desire.
He does.
But ability... to be a world champion at 160.
Which is the weight that he was talking. I got caught up in a conversation thinking he was going to fight at 168 against Saul Alvarez. He was actually talking about fighting at 160 again.
160. That's the question mark. Because I think Chris deservedly beat Conor in his last fight. And yes, there's a weight issue. But what I saw from Chris, I saw no more improvement on what we've seen. And so in seeing that, I'm thinking the guys that are out there, you've got to, I don't think that's there. I respect him, and I've got a lot of time for him.
You boys would have both been around up close and personal, specifically you, when Chris fights your brother for the second time round. Bomac's in the corner for that. Did you see any of the changes that he implemented to be able to achieve the outcome against your brother that they clearly did?
Not really. And it just sounds a little bit like sour grapes, but I think anyone could have beaten Liam on that night the way he was, and the things that happened before the fight with his injuries, and it was just a case of he had to fight and that was it. I think Eubank, nothing's really changed from what I've said, what Liam said, what the people around us have said since the first fight, in that Eubank is an accident waiting to happen. Now, you can't be talking about, and this is not me.
So you saw nothing, Paul? I mean, one of the things that we saw with Chris Eubank, because I was very surprised, because what Bomac said to us, and it caught my attention, was that Chris Eubank is very quiet in the gym and listens. And I always thought he was captain of his ship and took no advice from anybody and did what he wanted to do.
He's probably learned his lesson.
And maybe he did, man. But obviously when Roy Jones Jr. was in his corner, we saw Chris Eubank suddenly pick up some Roy Jones-isms.
Yeah.
You know, But you're saying that there's nothing. Did you see anything in the Bomac style that was being impressed upon Eubank Jr?
Long before them fights, John, he was in our gym sparring with us, and the kid never said 5 words. I said that on the show last week. Like that's how he has always been, young Chris. And he probably will pick up things from the coaches that he's working with or the people that he's sparring with. But if you're getting hurt and rocked off Conor Benn, who's a welterweight, with all due respect, in fights of that magnitude at your weight, then I don't see how you're going to go and win a world title against some of these top fellas. And it's not sort of sour grapes or bitterness. It's just, that's my opinion on what I feel. Now, I think Bomac will be a very good fit for him. I think it'll be a good link. And to train Chris, you've got to have his respect. You've got to be able to
But also, by the same token, you don't get Bomac for no reason, do you? I mean, is the only reason you get Bomac is because he's a gun for hire, or do you get Bomac because A, he's a gun for hire, but B, he recognises the fact you've got the chops to be able to be there in the first place?
I think Bomac, again, that's his job is to get the best out of his fight. He's not going to say anything else, is he? Yeah. He's not going to say this kid's not going to be world champion. If you ask the question, of course he's going to big up his charge. That's what he's got to do. Bomac is a good coach, and Chris will give himself every possible chance that's going. But in reality, you know, personally, I just think the last performance of Chris, I thought you've got nothing left. There's no more improvement on what I'm seeing there. And I know there was a weight issue and all the build up to it. I thought there's no more improvement there.
Does that mean you think do you think Conor Benn will be better in the second fight?
Yes.
Does that mean that you think that by him being better and there's no more left from Chris Eubank, that Conor Benn's able to bridge the gap, get an outcome in his second fight?
Without a doubt.
You do?
I do think there was a gap, though, personally.
So do I.
I think there was a gap.
Yeah, and Conor Benn, I think he learned a lot about himself to think, you know what, I could have done this, I could have that. Whereas Chris gave his heart and soul and gave it all. And I thought, you know what,
Is he technically able, though?
Such cojones, but then I don't think he's got anything else left. I just don't. He couldn't have done any more. If he could have knocked out Conor in that fight, he would have done. He just couldn't get rid of him. And Conor stuck it. So regardless of him being surprised that Conor stuck it out a lot more, he couldn't get rid.
Do you think the 12 rounds at that pace will do him any good?
No.
Or take away?
Because I think now Conor knows I've just got to maintain that pace and make him work for at least 245, 230 around.
But can he? I mean, can he technically? Because Eubank is a technically better fighter than he is.
Yeah, he technically is. Yeah. But he's in there with a young man he's got the natural speed, the agility.
He's got the explosiveness. He's not.
Do you think the weight issue around the rehydration? Because I keep on
made all the difference.
Do you?
And that's why if we're in the same contractual position now,
which it is,
isn't it?
Right.
Then we've got a problem.
But what Bomac turned around and said was that weight loss, because educate me, because Spencer keeps on educating me of the situation. Rehydration is the less important side of things. It's actually how you manage the weight getting to that particular point where you won't need to rehydrate so much anyway. So if you've cut the weight properly and got to the situation where you're in control of your own destiny. Bomac was saying it's not about losing weight, it's about how you lose it.
Yeah, Bomac was saying he'd be on him with the weight. All Eubank will say is, well, my nutritionist said I've got to do this, and he's in charge of the weight.
Yeah.
So it's not... Bomac has got good intentions.
I can get you down to 10 stone. You won't be able to tie your shoelaces. Yeah. You don't understand? So I can get you down to whatever weight you want. If you're going to perform in such a dangerous sport, as in boxing, which is so direct, there's no way in a quadrillion years you are going to be able to, you know, if he does it right, he'll get... It's not going to happen. So
does that mean you're picking Benn for this fight?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Does that mean...
and as I said, I've got a lot of respect for both fighters. I think I'm leaning towards Benn for this fight.
So, no, you're not. Are you staying on the Eubank corner?
I think the same again.
Yeah,
I think the same. I think and hope it'll be another good fight.
But if Conor were to do that, do you see a trilogy? Because again, there'll be the same clamour for the same outcomes. The money will be in the room. There'll be no world titles for either one of them. They'll be back in the mix again, fighting one another.
Yeah.
Is that what we want?
There was wrong when their dads did it.
But I mean, there was. I mean, I know I'm a mean-spirited, but their dads and them are two different things.
I understand that, and it was. But I think because both lads left both their heart and soul in the ring, that's why the crowd, that's why they got such viewing figures, because they thought, I rate that. So if you're talking about levels of ability, then it's a different kettle of fish, but it's because of how they fought and what they left in the ring that captured the imagination of everybody watching it.
Can I ask you a question?
By all means, if you want a sensible answer, maybe ask someone else.
Will you go to the next one?
I'm not inclined to.
After the first,
I'm not inclined to. I don't believe in nostalgia. I believe in elite, and I don't think either one of them are. I understand. I understand it was a barn burner. I watched it on a Saturday morning, and I understand. I've seen great fights in Witherspoons as well. I like to see top quality performers getting top quality outcomes, and I don't think either one of them are. And I think I have great admiration for Nigel Benn. I grew up adoring Nigel Benn. I have great respect for Chris Eubank Jr. And he is a tricky bugger. And when you have a conversation with him, you don't know whether to have a shit or a haircut half the time. But they're notwithstanding that, they're great company, they're great competitors, and they were great champions. And the fact that these two boys are dining out at their table, to me, it's something about it that kind of doesn't sit right with me. That, again, I might be wrong. I'm in the minority.
But were you not impressed by the honesty?
But Johnny, what else could they have given? The one thing they could given after all the noise, all the hullabaloo, the press tour, all of the.
It's not very often we see that in fights.
I know.
One fight, I took a great fight.
And maybe I'm unnecessarily cynical, because you're right. Sometimes you pay for it and you don't get it. In this instance, the one thing I thought you'd have to do is, because of your fathers, because of the legacy, because of the nostalgia, you had to deliver your everything that you could possibly deliver, whether the quality was one thing or another. So I don't think so, Paul. But I mean, I don't know. I'm actually more motivated to go and watch Fabio Wardley versus Joseph Parker, because I think that's a real fight with a real title opportunity at the end of it, rather than somebody paying a lot of money for someone else's reputation.
But never say never.